to talk about money and how the pay scale goes and what it really looks like. So the FCC is the hook. And they decide to pay VRS $325 a minute and pay Purple VRS $526. So each company is paid various wages per minute that they're on the phone call. So if we get paid for the minute, then we have to follow the FCC rules and all of the regulations that are following with that. So if that phone call doesn't follow the rule, then they're getting paid for that bill. We cannot bill for that. So that's how fraud happens with all of the different lying and changing of phone numbers. If you're taking advantage of the FCC and their time and racking up minutes, well then you got caught, fired, and then everything has to get back up and start again. Because you have to calculate up all of those costs, and that bill then comes back to us that we have to pay. But what you don't realize is all of those minutes, and if they're not following those rules, well, you gotta back up. And then we have to pay back all of those minutes and all of that money back to the FCC. It was close to about $1 billion that we had to write checks for and pay back. So Sorensen and other companies must pay back. It's not only just Sorensen. Question?
Is Sorensen in debt now? I mean, now they had to pay all that money. That's a ton.
So Sorensen has debt, yes. So we did have revenue saved up, so for that kind of fraud that happened, that we could pay Mac and have that money taken off. So every month we do pay, we do not have to pay every month. It is finished, the check is written, and we are done. So we filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which does not mean that we need to be shut down. But the company structure and our debt and everything needs to be changed. Before it was by the minute. So $6.74 for each minute. That's how it gets processed. So before, when it was set up. So now, we're changing it, and we actually have to lessen that. So it's $3.94. The FCC had to make all of these pay cuts and all of these cuts down than what was happening before. So before we had money that we could do all of this paying, right? It's similar kind of concept to when you pay for a car. You want a lower interest rate. You want that savings, right? Same for a house. When you go out and buy a house, 10 years later, you can have that finances for your house lessened. So you're not paying as much every month. It's the same sort of concept with the FCC. So the interest rate used to be 70%. And then we wanted to lower that rate, but now everything has to be changed because we had to pay everything back, so we had to hold all of those expenses and we had to actually ask them if they can lower. So that is what we're doing right now to make sure that we have the money to back up that kind of plan and keep going with the services that we are providing. So we do still, have savings. And that's really our business plan, and it's a good plan to have, and I'm happy with that. Good so far? So here we are, the hook, that's when I signed for that for FCC. So then we have those 3-year contracts, and those don't ever change, and they will continue. But now we have to think about what's going to happen. So we're going to change that actually and become every year from 3 years. So now it's going to change to $5.25 a minute and drop down to $4.25. So then if you're on the 3-year, it's 3. So every year you're having that cut for each minute that the FCC is wrapping up for the phone calls. So our deaf consumers, they're typically waiting for the responses, right? That's how that goes. And hearing, they're hearing the comments or the phone call back, they're getting that, and they have that opportunity to leave a voice message if they want to, but it's not required with the speed of the answer. So speed of answer is what I'm going to go with for SOA. So before in January of 2014, the FCC had told us that you will answer 95% of your phone calls in 60 seconds or less is what it was going down to. So that's how big of a percent it had to be. And that was fine, we were fine with that. Sorensen was okay. I can't speak for the other companies like Purple, but we're on it, answering those phone calls and keeping everything going. And the FCC thought, wow, this is great, they can keep up. So then we decided, and then it happened in July of 2014, you have to answer 85% of phone calls in 30 seconds or less. So to clarify that, before, in January, we could average, a day, open up at, let's say, 12 and go until 12 at night. So we're going for 12 hours. 24 hours. And things were fluctuating, a little bit under 85%, but that's fine. When you add everything together, the average matches up, and we're over that 85%. So yeah, good us. Got the money, getting paid. But now, no. So now every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on. Monday, less than 60 seconds. So if one time that day that we are below the 85%, we don't get paid for that day, is what's happening. We're losing everything. We're losing all of those minutes that are wrapped up. Everything has become free now. So before, as an average, good, we were doing great. And now every day we're down to actually measuring and calculating out all of those times. 85, 85, 85, but then when it starts dropping down, that really does impact us. Because we're not going to get paid for that day. At all. FCC is making a lot of changes. They have become a lot more strict. It's not only insurance, and understand it is all VRS companies. Everything is equal, but my God. I'm sorry, my little rant there. So that. To summarize.
Could you explain more about that? So they call Sorensen.
So the time that the person is on the phone call for, so that many minutes that they're connected and waiting, that is counting. So, okay, you call and you do get connected, and you hear, oh, thank you for calling Sorensen, I'll wait for the next available interpreter. That is adding up minutes. The time is ticking. And then it transfers to the interpreter. So we quickly answer it, and it pops up. And it has to be less than 30 seconds from when it pops up on the screen. But that does not start until July.
Oh. So does that mean all the calls coming in, all the interpreters total?
Yep. So if you're hiring all of these interpreters, and they are on, one day, I don't know, a deaf calls a billion times, and all of the interpreters are working, then there is a long line. They're in a queue. But the FCC will not pay until they are online and they are connected. But we have to reach that 85% of answering rate to get paid for that day. So say, right now, okay, so you have to be below the 30 seconds. Our company right now, we are very strict on those rules, 30 seconds or less to get paid. So our company is having that challenge, and that we really need to get that to get paid and break it down. So every day that we are meeting at 30 seconds or less is going successfully. But for example, one time that we are really busy and we don't have enough time and people are on the phones waiting, our numbers are decreasing. So I mean, if you can add interpreters, that will help, because then you'll bring up that 85% rate and you're decreasing the rate of people not getting their calls done. But I mean, it really depends on how many people are working, but we really have to strive for that 30 seconds or more. So I am the director, and then we have many other people that are working in the Sorensen office in the departments. So a lot of times if it's a busy time, we'll drop what we're doing and we will go interpret. We want to keep those numbers down and the answering rate up, because then we're keeping that 30 seconds or less and we are getting paid that day. Does that make sense? So if the FCC thinks interpreters are just a dial tone only, how can you control how long people are waiting? So really, why the limit if they're not calculating that time that they're waiting on the phone?
You have to remember, the FCC does not care about us.